everybody, welcome back to Kate Rebel's Realm. I am Kate Rebel and we are finally doing the legendaries. Eunomia. Eunomia integrates purifying power into her holy light, healing the allies and blessing them with attack speed. The divine panacea. 100 years ago, they'd spit on a wound and hope it didn't turn green. These days, healing's all foul-smelling poultices and tedious chants. Valeria, the Beast Knight. Regardless of their moral standings, deities are known for demanding payment in exchange for their divine support. Mortals are wise to question the terms of a god's deal. Some demand worship, war, and grisly sacrifices, but others extract a far subtler and more insidious price. Long ago, there was a promising young scholar of the White Tower named Eunomia. Like many academics, Eunomia left behind a wealth of journals and research, some of which she had preserved by the tower's archivists. According to these historical accounts, Eunomia was an excellent student. She was quick-witted and ardently dedicated to the collection of knowledge. Her interests lie in the healing arts and advancing the field. A faded page of her notes, penned in neat cursive, lists various regions of Taya that Eunomia traveled to in pursuit of her studies. Though she made many impressive breakthroughs in her time as a student, there is a distinct note of regret in what remain of her personal notes. Eunomia laments in one document that had she had 10 lives, she would still not have enough time to study the various healing practices of Taya. It would seem this ambition decided Eunomia's fate. Through a series of events forgotten by history, Eunomia came to join a collective of thinkers, warriors, and heroes dedicated to fighting the evils of Taya. Only a single page of notes remains of her time during their crucial period. In it, she writes about considering a new avenue to extend her research, making a deal with the gods. Though it is common knowledge that the first arbiters traded their humanity for their divine power to smite chaos, Eunomia's notes suggest that not all arbiters shared this motivation. Unfortunately, there exists no account of what happened to Eunomia after the arbiters made their divine contract, but there have been sightings of radiant figures among their ranks with the power to mend wounds and cure illnesses with the flick of their hand. If this arbiter is indeed Eunomia, then it would seem that her long-held goals were lost along with her humanity when she struck a deal with the gods. Wow, that's sad. She was really hoping that if she made a deal, that she could just keep going. Crash, the surefire cannon. We don't throw untapped potential in a cell to rot. That's never been the dwarven way. Brunor, the long-shot bombarder. While dwarves pride themselves on their honors and stoicism, they are as imperfect as any other race in Taya. Not every dwarf's past is as sparkly as the minerals they are famous for mining, and Crash, the surefire cannon, has gone down in dwarven history as a quintessential diamond in the rough. Abandoned as a child on the fringes of the Dwarven Mountains, Crash's adolescence was as scrappy as could be fathomed. With no birthright or respectable prospects to turn toward, he fell in stride with a gnash group of reprobates notorious for looting merchant shops and the occasional caravan. After meticulously planning a heist on one such caravan, transporting a dragon's hoard of raw silver, Crash's band struck hard and fast. The caravan's guards were quickly incapacitated and tied up. The band had no qualms with violence, but drew the line at murder. The heist was going as planned when suddenly one of the horses got spooked and broke free of a wagon, causing it to tip and pin one of the merchant captives beneath it. While the other thieves scattered with the valuable silver, Crash remained behind to lift the wagon. His efforts paid off, but just as the merchant scampered out from underneath, a guard who'd managed to free himself fired a crossbow bolt into Crash's flank. The wagon he'd be holstering crashed to the ground, crushing his hand. Significantly wounded, Crash was taken into custody and put on trial. While it very much appeared he'd been locked in a hole and forgotten about, someone quite unexpected spoke on his behalf. Brunor, the long-shot bombarder. The highly revered general had gotten wind of Crash's heroics and instinctively believed his life worth salvaging. Preferring imprisonment to serving under the decorated general, Crash changed his mind when Brunar addressed him directly. "Ye've an arrow in your arse, and only one hand to pull it out. How much worse do you think it get?" You're welcome. The old general's sentiments, though crude, were correct. Change did not occur overnight, but after years of strict apprenticeship under the gruff but just general, Crash transformed into a highly respected captain of Brunar's army. The icing on the dwarven cake is that Brunar himself adopted the former rogue as his son, fitting his crippled hand with a thermal beam that matched his own artillery cannon's power. The duo has fought side by side ever since. That's cute. Regulus. Shattered chains. A lion's soul bound to a man's? What do you take me for? Gronk, Mason. One of the most intriguing races in Taya are the hybrids, sentient half-man, half-beasts. While each is unique, all of this race began life as separate entities until soul-bound by a cataclysmic event. Regulus, the shield of the morning, was created one faithful night in the wild and ungoverned land of Liberos. Long ago, a deserter of the Masoon army named Garik was captured by slavers after a stint on the run. His captors took stock of his hulking figure, surmising he'd bode well in the fighting pits. They were correct. Garik faced an incessant pool of opponents, bandits, thieves, and rogue alike, his humanity chipping away with each bout. When the pitmasters introduced a lion to the fights, everything changed. Used as fodder, the lion took on multiple opponents in each brutal match as it collected an amalgam of scars. Witnessing this majestic creature being subjected to mindless violence struck a chord with Garik, and he resolved to spring the beast free. After awaiting the perfect storm of circumstance, Garik broke out of his cage one night and approached the lions. It bared its teeth aggressively until Garik lifted the latch. With understanding washing over the great cat, the two made for the woods. They didn't get far. The pair was swiftly captured and forced into the fighting pit immediately, pitted against each other for their transgression. A sword was tossed at Garik's feet, who refused to pick it up, earning him a crossbow bolt to the knee. Astonishingly, the lion emitted a deafening roar before shielding Garik's body with his own. With sinister grins, the slavers cut them down from the ramparts in a hail of crossbow fire. Riddled with bolts, it appeared the duo's short bond had concluded, but the gods had other plans. Miraculously, the constellation of Leo illuminated above, and in a swirling mist of ancient magic, man and lion were joined. Regulus, the shield of the morning, emerged, releasing a bellow of liberation. The slavers cowered before the powerful hybrid, who ordered the release of the remaining slaves. A defender of man and beast alike, Regulus banned slavery in Liberos, and has transformed it into a sanctuary for the lost, damaged, and downtrodden. He welcomes any who wish to live meaningfully and fight for freedom. That made me like him. I don't like big cats, per se. Jungle cats kind of freak me out. But I have him, and I literally don't use him because he freaks me out. But I feel like that kind of helped. That story was beautiful. Ingrid! I'm so excited to read her story. Lifted by the stars above, Ingrid rules eternally as the immortal sun. A star is born. Don't get me started. We're not singing today. Tyrant, a lord, a savior. She is the vision's vessel, consort to the gods themselves. Thalin, the cosmic guillotine. The Masoon Empire, a bastion of military might both feared and venerated across Taya, came to symbolize humans' first rise to power following the birth of civilization. Since its inception, the Masoon has been ruled by an unbroken line of monarchs who oversaw its unparalleled ascent. But standing out among the ranks of nobility was one figure who towered above all with her presence, ambition, and magnanimity. Regarded by many as a symbol of greatness, she is Ingrid, Regulus Excelsa. Born during the height of the empire, Ingrid was daughter to Berger, the visionary emperor and architect of some of the Masoon's greatest triumphs. Following the untimely death of her two brothers in the Bloodletting, the Great War against the Yalnor, Ingrid was set to be groomed for the throne from a young age. She was arranged to seek audience with an eminent oracle in the vast expanse of the Mortius Desert, escorted by a large military convoy. Though proud and ostentatious, the detachment was now pressing beyond the domain of the Masoon, deep into the wild expanse of Taya's hinterlands. This was Ingrid's first foray into Taya's foreign territories, and she would be humbled by the savage nature of the world outside the castle walls. Weeks passed and the convoy arrived, but the oracle would only meet with Ingrid in private. The vision she presented was exceedingly horrific. Engulfed in an impenetrable wall of flame, the Masoon was set ablaze in its entirety. An army of skeletal warriors, eyes sullied with flesh half-rotten, crawled out of the soil and marched on her home. Wraths emanating pure darkness screeched and howled, sucking out the souls of the living, and then she saw her father, draped in robes, fully consumed by black flame. What Ingrid saw that day would alter her fate completely. Though it was never mentioned again, a change in character was palpable to the discerning eye. She became obsessed with her search for a power which transcended the stodgy limitations of the pike and shield. She began unrelentingly in her demands for loyalty, seemingly intoxicated by a hungering ambition for militaristic might, regimentation, and prestige. Brilliant and charismatic, yet unscrupulous and despotic at her extremes, Ingrid grew uncompromising in her divine for greatness. Then came the fateful day when Ingrid was approached by Praetus, leader of the Supreme Arbiters. He implored that Taya was now faced with a grave danger, the likes of which humanity had never witnessed, and that in her capacity as Empress of the Masoon, she could play a highly influential role in upholding order across the land. For her commitment to the Arbiter, she would be anointed with divine power, transcendent of her corporal limits. As the oracle's vision keenly flashed through her mind once more, Ingrid realized her moment had come and steadfastly abided. Offering up the royal blood of the Masoon to the heavens, Ingrid became fused with Helios, the celestial spirit, and together they set out to rule the sun and the stars, restoring order to Taya. No longer fully human, she adorns a suit of golden armor inlaid with the crest of the Masoon, a crowned mask, and her staff of Helios, the beacon of her cosmic strength. With her outsized role and ambition that at times even eclipsed Praetus, Ingrid envisions a Taya unified under the might of the Masoon, extolled by the gods themselves. Do you think she's like Scarlett Johansson in Under the Skin? Because I do. We're gonna end it off with Leia, this healer I really want. Strings attached. I never knew what heaven would sound like until I heard her play, Elven Matriarch. To be blessed by the gods is a rare feat, but to forge your own blessing is even rarer. This is precisely what Leia, the celestial chord speaker, did. Raised as an oracle of the Sun Elves from a young age, her destiny had always been to become a seer for her people, someone who could gaze into the future and predict calamities before they happened. But no matter how hard her caretakers tried to awaken her slumbering power, Leia's connection to the gods never surfaced. Years passed and disappointment took root in the elves' hearts. Was this finally the end of their lineage of oracles? No one was as opposed to that travesty as Leia. She resolved not to wait for her power to awaken, instead she would trigger it herself. Leia threw herself into the magical study and religious practices of a myriad number of schools of faith. She learned and toiled and eventually landed on music, specifically chords, realizing they could transcend dimensions in ways mortals could not. Leia thus set to crafting her own unique instrument, one that would be bound to her soul and allow her to transcend mortal barriers. The cost was high. Leia resolved to craft a harp, but the requirement that her soul would be bound to the instrument forever. This meant that should anything happen to the instrument, she would suffer physical consequences as a result. It was as if the instrument was an extension of her very mind and body, but pain was not something Leia feared. She feared letting down her people and sought to fulfill her destiny at all cost, and so she did, binding herself to the harp. The bonding was a success, and Leia accomplished that which no elf had done before. Through playing magical chords on the harp, Leia was able to not only commune with divine deities, but also receive their boons and aid. Achieving her destiny, she became an oracle for the Sun Elves, earning her honored title and a place in Taya's history books. Well, that was a beautiful way to end the video, Leia. Oh my goodness. That is some crazy strength to be like, I want to heal people in a way that no one's done before, that will be the most powerful through music. I don't care. Bind me, bind my soul. Crazy, insane. Some of these stories were very powerful and beautiful, and I just want to say thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the legendary Watchguard heroes as much as I did. Their stories were beautiful, and I know that maybe not as interesting or as crazy as some of the other factions. They are kind of the core of the game, so there is beauty, there is strength, and those were very interesting stories that I think will help a lot with how you view these heroes in Watcher of Realms. So thank you so much for coming and watching the legendary heroes of the Watchguard faction. I had so much fun telling you these stories, and until next time, I'm Kate Rebel, this is Kate Rebel's Realm, and I will see you next time. Aw, well, you know what? We can't all be perfect. A lot of stuff happens in Liberos. This guy scares me so bad, I don't want to look at him. Crash! Crash. Crash? Crack. Crack. And he's her simp. Fallon simps for Ingrid, right? He's like down on his knees and she's like... Anyway.